much youth in that last performance, in my opinion. Letters to Santa Claus. Dear Santa, for some time now, I have been in correspondence with one of your subordinates, a Mr. Elf Watson, Vice President, Hunting and Fishing Gifts. As you are aware, most inquiries to your firm are now answered by computer. Thus, it was with some relief that I finally received a reply from a real person, namely Elf Watson. Assuming, of course, Mr. Watson is a person, I confess my ignorance as to which species elves belong, if any. In the beginning of our rather lengthy correspondence, Mr. Watson impressed me as an amiable and ingratiating chap, and we soon arrived at a first-name basis. As time passed, however, Elf became increasingly surly, and in my opinion, even somewhat irrational. In his most recent letter to me, he lowered himself to outright insults, inquiring sarcastically, "What's a grown man like you doing writing letters to Santa for anyway?" I'm sure you don't approve of such belligerence shown towards your clientele by your employees and will take appropriate disciplinary action. After my unhappy experience with Elf Watson, I decided to take my problems to the top, namely yourself. I trust that by writing personal on the envelope, I have ensured that this letter will elude the computer and make its way to your desk. Let me say, first of all, that I have generally been well pleased with my Christmas gifts for the past 30 or 40 years, although there have been a few problems. The insulated waiters you brought last Christmas were several sizes too small, prompting my children to laugh hysterically when I tried them on, and my wife, Bun, to comment dryly that I looked like a roasted wiener about to burst its skin. I can understand how you and the elves might enjoy playing a little joke from time to time, but in the future, I would appreciate a more serious attitude when it comes to filling my gift order. You also made a minor error last Christmas in giving my wife a nice little side-by-side 20-gauge shotgun, since she doesn't actually hunt. But don't concern yourself about it. As I told Bun, even Santa can slip up on occasion, and there's no reason to hold a grudge against you. I think she is starting to come around, but I might suggest that this year, instead of entering through the chimney, perhaps you should just sling our presents on the porch as you go by, okay? Also, when I said I wanted fish scales for Christmas, I meant an instrument on which to weigh fish. Either there was a communications breakdown, or Elf was pulling another one of his practical jokes. True, Bun had a good laugh over the look on my face when I opened the package, but she stopped laughing when she had to vacuum the fish scales out of a shag carpet. So when you sling our presents onto the porch, don't go ho 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 or any of that stuff, and you'll probably be all right. It might be well to press the pedal to the metal on old Dancer and Prancer, even though Bun still isn't much of a wing shot. Now, to my point of contention with Elf. The Christmas in question was that of 1941. As you may recall, and I hope your memory is better than Elf's, I was 6 years old at the time and living with my folks in a small log cabin in a remote valley of the Rocky Mountains. The Great Depression was over by then, as I've since learned, but nobody had told my parents. They thought we were still poor. My father kept saying things like, "Well, it can't get any worse than this," and then it would get worse. "Now I know we've hit rock bottom," he would say, only to have the bottom drop out from underneath us once again. I had grown quite accustomed to my father's optimistic pronouncements and didn't pay much attention to them. Then one December day, over our breakfast gruel, he muttered something so ominous and frightening, I forgot what I was doing and actually placed some of the gruel in my mouth. "Pickings have got so slim," Dad said, "I kind of doubt whether Santa Claus will even be afford to show up this year. I expect he's busted just like the rest of us." I said. What did you say? Dad repeated himself, staring at me glumly through the gruel steam. But what the heck, he said. You have lots of other Christmases ahead of you. You'll make up for it later. No presents one Christmas ain't gonna knock a big hole in your life, I guess. Not knock a big hole in my life. It would kick down all four walls of it. That's what it would do. No presents for Christmas? If Santa Claus thought he would weasel out of it, just because times were hard, he had another thing coming. Actually, there was nothing I could do, as you, Mr. Claus, are well aware. I probably could have given up believing in you, but I was only enraged, not crazy. Now, you may think this is one of those maudlin stories where at the very last minute, you, Santa Claus, do show up and everyone stands around laughing and wiping away tears and saying this was the best Christmas ever. Forget it. You, Mr. Claus, did not put in an appearance at our house at Christmas in 1941. I hope you are ashamed of yourself. Sure, my father tried to get you off the hook, whittling me out a little toy boat and saying it had come from you. One reason I think he said it came from you was he didn't want to take the blame for the boat himself. Dad wasn't much of a whittler, and he lacked patience. The boat was a board with a point on one end and a long nail pounded into it into the mast. The mast was too heavy for the boat and caused it to float upside down. This is the worst Christmas ever, I complained. Shut up, my father said, and go play with your boat. So the way I see it, Mr. Claus, you still owe me a Christmas, and I would like to collect. If you will check your records, you will see that in my letter to you in December 1941, I requested a tin boat that you put those little wax candles into and let them generate steam and power the little boat. Having computed the interest compounded semi-annually on that little boat over a period of 45 years, I find that now amounts to a 38-foot sport fisher with twin diesels and a flying bridge. I would like you to pay up this Christmas, or I shall have to turn the matter over to a collection agency. You needn't gift wrap the boat. Also, it would be best if you left it at the local marina with my name on the gift tag. For gosh sake, don't try to drop it off at the house. It might get peppered with stray bird shot. Sincerely yours, Pat.